Put it on that beat. Nope.
Hey, must have on the beat.
What, come up, say Drake. What's up, you guys? Your girl G here. Welcome back to my channel. Appreciate you for tuning in. Wanted to come and talk to you really fast about Love and Marriage Huntsville. I just got done watching Kendrick's performance for Super Bowl, and so yeah, I watched the Super Bowl last night. I'm glad the Eagles won. We got a black, okay, it was a battle of the blacks. We needed a purebred, okay, not none of these halvesies like Patrick with his old MAGA girlfriend, so it was just so, good to watch a black man win. Then, y'all know last time the Eagles won, they declined Trump's invitation to the White House. So is he even going to try to give an invitation this year? Because they declined his last time. They actually canceled it because they declined to show up. So I wonder if the invitation's going to even be extended this time. But nonetheless, I wanted to come and try to play catch up now that, that's done and over with. We're going to play catch up and talk about Love and Marriage Huntsville. We have part 2 of the reunion. Who's going to really get it this episode? In my opinion, Destiny, Sunni, and Mel this episode. In my mind, we got a little bit of, touching their head tops just a little bit. So if you're new to my channel, hey, how you doing? What's up? Your girl G here. Appreciate you for tuning in. You're catching your girl in a good mood today. All right. And everybody else, Juicebox crew, drop it in the comments. Let me know you stop by, and let's get into it. Picking up where we left off, the episode opens up with Melody and Kimmy. I'm really in a good mood today, but the weed will do it to you. It'll help you forget all the nonsense. Make your bones feel a little loose. Okay, I'll do too much. What? Come on, what? I'm gonna do my stuff. I'm done. I'm tripping, y'all. Who was I talking about? Okay, Melody and Kimmy. So y'all know they're going back and forth because Kimmy's still bringing up the fact that, Melody is doing the whole insinuating with Marques and asking questions. And Melody explained this in her live after everything too, when she announced that she was leaving. She explained how, she basically hit Kimmy up after the scene like, you don't want to talk about it. We ain't gonna talk about it no more. I had to ask you because production, this and that. And Kimmy's like, girl, yeah, I know. So, yeah, in the midst of all of that going on, Destiny decides to pipe up because something was mentioned about how, once you said something to me, you can talk to me, And Destiny was like, girl, it don't be received. And so Destiny started piping up. And so Melody was like, excuse me, I'm talking to Kimmy and Carlos. And she's like, well, everybody has an opinion. I can say something, which is true. And so Melody's like, see, this is what was happening at taco nights. You want to talk over me. And we not finna do this, with Kimmy. I'm letting you know right now, it was I didn't say anything. And so, people started talking about trying to get stuff across to Mel, and so to Melody. And so Nell got brought up in the fact of Marques said something to the extent of was it Carlos that brought something up in regards, because they were Melody and Destiny were going back and forth, and then Carlos brought up the fact that even though Kimmy and Melody do have these moments where they bump heads, they never get to the point where they are just, taking just hardcore jabs at each other. And it's understanding that they have somewhat of a mutual respect with each other. And so from that regards, Marques, he's like, yeah, they have a mutual respect for each other. And, it was okay, so if we're going to start trying to tell Mel stuff, it's almost like when Nell, how come she waited 6 weeks to tell Melody about her feelings being hurt or whatever. And Nell basically was like, I had to take that time for me because, it pissed me off, Because Melody's like, I, think I'm in these situations where I am keeping it, light, super, not too deep, never being disrespectful with each other. For Nell, for instance. And so Nell brings up like how, girl, ha, kiki, ha, ha, laughing with each other. But it wasn't until I watched the show back that I saw that she was upset. And then Nell was like, yeah, I took that time because when I thought about it, it pissed me off. And so, I think also too, the fact that it took Nell 6 weeks to tell Melody is, I'm sure a part of it was holding on to it until the next time they filmed, and so that's what I probably think what that was, in my opinion, probably what it was that made her hold off on saying something for so long. But it doesn't negate the point in which people are trying to make of like, Nell feeling like coming across as they're waiting 6 weeks to tell Melody something. It's just kind of reiterating the feeling of it, like Melody's like, I never tell y'all not to come to me and talk to me. And it's like, you don't have to, but your energy does, people, although they may have an issue with you and come to, try to tell you an issue, it feels like it's never being, acknowledged, received, or whatever. And I can definitely say there are some moments where Mel definitely kind of gives off an energy of like, you understand whatever you say to her at this moment is going to go in one ear and out the other. And so when Nell starts bringing up, I just didn't like the fact how you were telling me like, I wasn't like mentoring you or whatever, like you and Martell, that's not true. Like I stayed up late nights with you and I just didn't like how you said that. And Chris, kind of was just like, in that moment, that time, her mom was super sick. And, the time that she spent, that we spent helping y'all, was time that she could have gave to her mother. And, Melody was like, I get that. I understood that when she explained that, but Mel kind of is turning it to the thing of like, almost of a sense of like, how is it my fault that you made that? Like, didn't nobody tell you to do that? And, as you know, there was this moment too where Destiny was talking back to Melody and Marques over there. Messi just gather up, get your gathering, Mel. And so, yeah, like, and with Nell trying to express to Melody of like feeling like ultimately it was just a feeling like minimizing where they were at in their friendship and minimizing what it meant to be a friend, to be there to help you, whether it's through Martell or whatever, y'all by virtue of being in a relationship, it was still time that was lent towards helping your ass, okay? And so when they, dismissed or whatever, Marceau was explaining to Melody, like, look, like, you're almost kind of proving her point. Because when she's explaining, like, I love Mel. I'm always going to love Mel. It kind of pissed me off in that moment, but can't nobody, turn me away from Mel. Like, I'm always going to have a soft spot for her. We just got to reconnect, right now, whatever. But how she said it, that's just kind of like what made me mad. And so Melody does when Carlos was like, do you get that, Mel? And she was like, those are her feelings. Those are her feelings. It just comes off very dismissive. It does. Like, you just sitting there being like, she's allowed to have her feelings. Doesn't really, it doesn't really give off that you are acknowledging their feelings. Like, yeah, I can say, yeah, you got your feelings to have them, but it's not really acknowledging how their feelings are that way because of the things that you did, Melody, like when you did that, it just does come across as if it's like you're not wanting to see how the person's feelings are, what is the word I'm looking for? The person's feelings are an effect of like the things that you said or did to them. And so when Marceau and Teacher were trying to explain that to Melody, she was just kind of like, I didn't tell her, to, do that. Like, I didn't, say, girl, come over here, or I never called her and was like, hey, I need you. And Mel does this one thing that I don't like that people do, that there's this thing of like, I hate when people do that thing of like, when somebody's explaining all the stuff that they did for you, and then the other person's like, well, I didn't ask you to do that. Like, I didn't tell you to do that for me. It's like, yeah, you may not have, the person may have, offered this up or whatever, or took it on their own, regards to do that. regardless of you not asking, it doesn't negate the fact that the time or money or whatever energy was still spent towards something that you benefited from or that you got something out of it. Yeah, Melody, you may not have, called her up to be over at your house and say, girl, like this, and that, but it still don't change the fact that Nell and Chris came over to your house at any point, or it doesn't change the fact that, Nell was on the phone with you at, wee hours of the morning. Like it doesn't matter if you initiated it or not, it still happened, And so I think it just did come across a little bit like as, y'all want to play semantics of were you a mentor or counselor. Nonetheless, you introduced them as a couple in which you and Martell looked up to, and took advice from at the end of the day. And so, yeah, not Martell, but Marceau and Tisha were just in the back talking to Marques, whatever the producer was like, Melody kind of was just like literally proving her point when she did that. So after that segment, they end up getting into Destiny coming back, right? So we got Destiny on stage, and then that hair, terrible. I'm sorry, that part, terrible. It's just not blending well. It just looks so thin where that root is, where the part is at. It went from clear to blonde. I did not like Destiny's hair 1 iota. So nonetheless, like I said, we get to the Destiny part. Basically, her being back, okay, back in Huntsville, and after everything that happened with LeBaric and Moses and all that type of stuff like that. But we got to get into like the singular part. We'll get into the Moses part next. So Destiny basically gets asked about, coming back and what made her want to come back. And Carlos was being messy boots. Well, he was like, how do you feel like, being back after you were on the show for years and, not really giving anything. And, like the way he put emphasis on that years, of not telling your story. It would just give it like, bitch, we had you on the show for a long time. You weren't giving this okay? And so Destiny was like, yeah, I'm back. And, I couldn't give last time because I wasn't in a space too. I was still healing and I wasn't in a place to be vulnerable. Okay. Kimmy gets asked, do you feel like Destiny was definitely in a better spot this year? And she was like, yeah, I definitely noticed a difference. I never considered the fact that, Destiny still had to heal from a lot of things. But, this year I definitely could tell, like, Destiny was a lot more open. And so then she gets asked about, well, Destiny, see, this year, speaking of open, you with Lance. Is Lance a storyline? And she was like, no. She was like, no, Lance is not a storyline. Lance has kind of been somebody that, we kind of had some energy, some chemistry. But, we never really just kind of connected with each other until after both of them were going through a separation at the time. And so, yeah, she was like, once we got there, just was like, okay, maybe we'll take the time, right now. Maybe the timing is just right for us right now. And so, one of the things that was kind of crazy to me was basically how this episode, it definitely seemed like Carlos was giving some little passive aggressive digs towards Destiny for sure. But one thing I will say, Destiny, about this idea about like, oh, you were a lot more open this season. Yeah. But you really got lucky in the aspect of, because you had more of a storyline when it came to the Moses and Sunni situation, that really kept you of getting into the real storyline of you and your story of like your arrest, your situation with LeBaric, like I still feel like there were some things about Destiny's background, of herself that still wasn't really gotten into. Like I said, that whole, getting arrested, or, the mugshot and the LeBaric of it all. And the like, I still feel like there was some stuff that we missed in regards to Destiny herself. But nonetheless, Lance is where they're at. And so he brings up the fact like, well, you were with Moses. So were you looking at Lance like, ooh, she was like, no, like I was in a relationship. What? And so Carlos looked at Martell like, well, sometimes that don't always matter. Yes, because niggas out here don't care about being in a relationship, okay? But in this case, Destiny basically was like, even though you're in a relationship, you can still look at other people and see other people are attractive, So yeah, they may have had some type of vibe with each other when they see each other, but because, both of them were occupied, like you kind of really just kind of stop it right there and see and just notice like, oh, this other person's attractive. So, Carlos started asking Nell and Chris, oh, how would you feel about having Destiny, as a daughter-in-law, because Destiny, how old are you? And she's like, grown. He was like, what? She was like, I'm grown. And Nell was like, you told me you were 42. And she was like, no, I didn't. She was like, girl, yes, you did. Do I think Destiny told Nell she was 42? I think somewhere in just a gist of having conversation, I think her age came up. And she said 42, possibly. Because Nell was adamant, like, girl, I know you told me like you were 42. But, Nell started saying, like, Lance, he said, she's nice. And, she's a nice lady and everything. And so Carlos was like, a nice lady, like, that gives real, lady at the library or, barista teas. Like, the lady was nice at the coffee store. And so she was like, well, me and Lance don't talk that much about relationships, which, I can see that they're not that close in those regards. And like a lot of parents typically aren't just all up in the day-to-day of who their child is dating and stuff like that until it gets like serious. So I can believe that. But Carlos did ask Chris Fletcher, Chris, what do you think about Destiny? Do you feel like, she's a good match for Lance? Chris was like, well, I can't say nothing because, I'm not the one dating her, Lance, he feels like, Destiny, him, have a good relationship, So, I'm gonna let my son, choose what's right for him. And so, Nell basically just kind of straight out was like, I think Destiny still got some work to do. And so Carlos was kind of like, well, what is it about Destiny? Like, is it maybe that you don't trust her? And she was like, yeah, maybe like she hiding some stuff. And Carlos was like, oh, do you think she's still hiding things? And the way Nell kind of looked back, from the angle, it just looked like Nell was giving her just a real mean,
bombastic side eye.
And so Nell after that was like, what did Nell say? Nell was just like, she just, she has some growing up or like some learning to do, and so it was just real funny. Like Destiny the whole time was really just kind of quiet and she was taking it or whatever. And so when basically just got both of the way that Chris and Nell avoided answering, oh, how would you feel about Destiny being your daughter-in-law? But Nell did say that, her, Chris, Destiny, Lance, Tisha and Moses, Tisha and Marceau all went out. And she was like, oh, back then I got asked, oh, how would you feel, just jokingly about Destiny being your daughter-in-law? She was like, I said, yeah, but that was then, now I don't know if I feel that way. And so Carlos leaned over to Destiny was like, I'd start dating other people, because it wasn't giving no good, like, welcome to the family energy, And so Destiny was saying like, I am dating, because at first Carlos was definitely trying to make it seem like she was just diving into to Lance, because he was like, oh, so do you like Lance? And she was like, yeah, he's like, so do you plan on, do you see a future with him? And she was like, well, I'm figuring that out because I'm dating. He was like, well, how deep have y'all gotten? And of course, obviously, it was just kind of like, excuse you, And so then after Carlos asked that, he was like, well, how long do you think it's going to take? And she was like, well, shit, the first two, obviously was done. So let me like take my time and figuring out this last one. One thing I have noticed about Carlos is he does do a lot of pushing for women to be in relationships. He does do a lot of pushing to like hurry up and rush into this like, you know, love story, you know? And it's, yeah, I don't know. It's just something about him and the way that he always is looking for resolve, almost in a way that is just toxic. Like, there isn't really a resolve, you know? It's just like, let's just kiss and make up type stuff for the surface of it all, you know? But, yeah, when he earlier in the episode was asking Destiny all them questions, you know, he definitely was just like messy, okay? So basically that Destiny segment ends with Chris Fletcher and Nell clearly feeling like, next. Nope, Lance, we don't want it. But to me, it was just giving, you know, Destiny's occupying her time with Lance right now. It's giving, you know, well, can't be sneaky link now because y'all on national TV, but it was just giving situationship energy. You know, it's giving booty call energy. That's what it's giving to me. But yeah, moving on. So we finally have Sunni on the stage, y'all. So Sunni comes on. Y'all, tell me why this heifer is in a red dress too. So of course Carlos, you know, gets started with the, from a lady, you know, that we're welcoming somebody that we've seen before, you know, our producer Sunni, because she was producer on the show previously, and you know, she's back on. And so he was like, see, it seems that you know, you and Destiny have a lot of similar taste in a lot of things. And so literally panned to both of these heifers, and they both in a red dress. In my opinion, I'm sorry, although Sunni's dress could have fit a little bit better, like, or just a little better, like in the kind of waist area, I think overall Sunni looks better, y'all, than Destiny. The hair, the makeup, the earrings, like maybe just the whole ensemble. Like, I'm sorry, y'all, Sunni looked better than Destiny. And the dress wasn't even just like a, you know, just like how Destiny was just like all bedazzled out, you know. Like Sunni's concept of her dress was just a lot better. The makeup was like, yeah, I'm sorry. In this situation, Sunni beat you out, Destiny, in my opinion. But nonetheless, you know, Carlos, we got to break down, you know, the whole package of, you know, Sunni, Moses, and Destiny, that whole triangle. So they run everything. They get done with the footages. There's Melody talking about, well, time for a break. Because it was just so awkward. It's like, in general, like, it is awkward at the end of the day, because as much as Sunni, you want to denounce like how much you didn't know Destiny, how much y'all weren't friends, you know, in quotation marks, you know, there was enough degrees of separation for you to understand that Destiny deserved a heads up in this situation, okay? Point blank, period. Or some type of convo. So they get into it or whatever, and Carlos just kind of like, you know, Sunni, you know, welcome to the show. You know, what made you want to do it? And, you know, she said, you know, Moses felt like he wanted to do the show to protect me because, you know, he knew there was going to be like a lot of slander. And Destiny kind of rolled her eyes. And it's like, no, slander, Miss Sunni. I don't know if you're going to say slander, Miss Ma'am, because at the end of the day, how this situation came about is trifling, in the words of Tricia, or in the words of Tisha. It was a trifling ass situation. You knew that, because here, you know, here's Sunni explaining it like, oh, you know, first of all, I would say like people don't need to judge me, you know, without all the information. Secondly, you know, just because you date somebody doesn't mean like, you know, they're just like this ownership over them. People need to understand that. And thirdly, you know, it just wasn't like me and Destiny were friends, you know, we met through work. So in Sunni's mind, it's like, okay, yeah, I met Destiny and you were her producer. And everybody who's been on some type of show understands the producer is somebody you get to know because they are producing your life. So you actually witnessed Moses and Destiny in a relationship capacity. And so for you to actually witness that and then get with the man, it would make anybody, raise their eyebrows. All right. Look at you with my good eye. All right. But Sunni keeps trying to minimize the relationship between her and Destiny. And so, speaking of Moses, Carlos did ask, like, oh, Sunni, glad to see you. Where's Moses and his magnificent beard? And she was like, well, Moses, he is locked up, unfortunately, with some traveling things, he is dealing with some probation. And she went into the typical, when you don't want to tell the truth of what happened, or you want to like try to, put a band-aid over what a nigga does, you got to pull out the colonialism of it all with the, how they treat black men in America. They just don't want to let him, live, especially even though you get out of jail, you always on paper, Girl, Sunni, you would have been better just saying, Moses unfortunately dealt with a probation violation, and due to that, he currently is being, held until things get situated going further. Like, I would have rather that than you did that whole, black men in America monologue. Sunni just kind of gets to the fact that, like, her and Destiny, she was basically trying to put out, I didn't know that woman, Harpo, who this? And Destiny's kind of feeling like, girl, you knew what our relationship was. And so for you to jump on that man right after that is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So finally, Tisha pops up and was like, yeah, I'm not going to lie. Like, if my friend dated a guy, like, there's no way that he would even be somewhere on my radar. Shoot, when I got with Marceau, first thing I did was ask my friends, like, you fuck him? Like, you with him? And Sunni was like, that ain't what I heard. I heard you mess with his friend. Tisha said, don't do me. I ain't nobody mess with nobody friend. And so, Sunni basically was like, Tisha said, I don't think Sunni as a person is trifling. I actually like her. It's just like what she did was trifling. And I can see that, because do I think Sunni is just a horrible person just through watching her on TV? I don't think so. I think she was a woman desperate. I think she was a woman of a certain age, has her career. And, as she said it earlier, in the season of like, oh, the things that we wanted, they just matched up. Destiny gets asked from Carlos, what do you think it was? Or do you think Moses got with Sunni on purpose to hurt you? And she was like, yeah. And she was like, yeah, I just really felt like he got with her because that would be the only way he would be able to talk to me. Melody started laughing like, what? Like, wait a minute. Are you trying to say that he went off and married a woman so he'd be able to come back to the show to get an opportunity to talk to you? That's a lot. It sounds crazy, but is it impossible? Because as crazy as it is, niggas will do a lot of things when it comes to trying to, patronize a woman, be vindictive. But do I think it was to get back at Destiny necessarily? No, I think he, told himself Sunni would be the next best opportunity of a relationship, because he broke up with Destiny because he said Destiny had too much going on. So, I think Sunni for him was like, oh, here's a woman that, I ain't really got to take, she ain't got no kids, like, I ain't seemingly having to help a whole bunch out, financially or whatever. So, and also for him, it was an opportunity to be on a TV show potentially. So, yeah. When Carlos, brings up about, Sunni coming back on the show or whatever, Sunni also do want to say too, Moses left you out in the cold. I know you said he was like mentioned like, oh, we'll go back in the show because, I know they'll slander you. But you was the one doing all the talking. Like, you were the one who were constantly having to explain what y'all's relationship was. So that man ain't did nan protecting. And, you know, I get it. You know how Carlos is trying to explain, you know, oh, you come on the show, you know, it's a lie. You know, you had a lot of daggers coming at you. True enough, because the minute we heard this announcement or whatever, bitch, everybody was on your ass. Because at the end of the day, the optics is not great. And even with you after explaining everything, the setup is still not great. So it was best that instead of you coming out with the defensiveness of like, oh girl, we ain't shared the same man, wasn't nobody sharing the same dick, you know, girl, wasn't nobody no side chick, I'm his wife, all of that stuff like that, you know, you was all up on him and he was talking to a whole bunch of girls, so who really the side chick, like, as Carlos is explaining it, yes, it makes sense why Sunni would be, you know, with the boxing gloves already, because you are on national TV fighting a whole bunch of opinions. But when you get down to the nitty gritty of it all, you would have got a lot further with telling Destiny and being a little bit more emotional with your response of just being like, I mean, it is kind of hard to sit there and literally say out loud, girl, I chose dick over you. I had the opportunity to choose a friend or a man or what I thought was my future. Because that's what Sunni said. She was like, was I supposed to just let this man who basically seems like he's a fit for me go, you know, for the rest of my life with having kids and a man and all that type of stuff? She didn't want to let that go. She didn't want to let that potential opportunity go just off the sake of, yeah, you know, we knew each other. Then not to mention, I'm surprised I didn't bring up the fact that Sunni also, you were managing Destiny at one point. So, like, let's stop it, boo-boo. So yeah, after that, what else did they get into as far as Destiny and Moses and Sunni? Carlos started talking to Destiny like, okay, he was like, so Destiny. She was like, Carlos. He was like, you know, in this moment and just explaining like, you know, in some grace and, you know, because with you and Stormy, y'all, she was like, but I ain't get nobody come after me after that. You know, if you apologize, you ain't finna do no something after and think that I'm gonna be friends with you. Like, Destiny was just like, every time Carlos said something, they definitely was having some invisible tennis match this episode. And Carlos was like, let me land the plane. And he's like, let me land it. She was like, land the plane. And he looked at her like, everybody was like, ooh. She was like, land it then. And Carlos essentially wanted to be like, is there a space where there's forgiveness and moving on? And Sunni basically was like, I'm good. You know, like, I have nothing going on. I just want everybody to move on, be positive. You know, that's it. And everybody looked at Destiny and Destiny, her thing is always going to be like, apology, yeah, whatever, but the actions after the apology. And from the fact that you were posting stuff about my child, you know, Sunni kind of came back with the whole Mari situation, because at the end of the day, people was questioning Destiny's paternity. And we still ain't necessarily got answers to that. But, you know, Sunni, was it messy and petty? Yes. And Destiny, you also could just sit there and admit, like, yeah, she can apologize, but I just can't be cool with her. Like, I would rather you say that than, like, try to use stupid little petty reasons, like, oh, you know, you were talking about my child, you know. It was, like, yeah. Y'all just ain't gonna be cool with each other. That's just what it is. Yeah, Sunni also, you know, Carlos asked, like, well, you know, could you apologize, Sunni, for that? And Sunni's like, there really isn't much for me to say, because I've already apologized, hell, on the girls' trip, and she didn't accept it then, which I could see that too, because at the end of the day, you can tell when somebody's ready to receive an apology. Destiny don't want no apology. They end up, you know, oh, I forgot talking about when Carlos brought up the fact that, you know, Sunni was coming on the show. And Destiny just shouts out, yeah, that's why you and Mel met in July and y'all talked about this storyline. And Carlos leaned back and was like, yo. And Melody was like, what? She was like, yeah, y'all met up and talked about the storyline, and then she came on. And both Sunny and Melody was like, girl, sadly mistaken. No, we did not. And so Carlos kind of fixes it and says that it was really them that reached out to Sunny once they found out, you know, Destiny was on the show, and then that whole announcement happened. You know, they're the ones that reached out to Sunny. I don't know where she got in particular that, like, Mel was the one that reached out. I don't know where that came from. I don't know if she's thinking because the show reached out to Sunny, she immediately felt like Mel was connected to that. And Destiny, you knowing them reaching out to Sunny and them as a show, I'm sure, yeah, Melody's the EP or whatever, but she's not really in charge of it like that. I don't think Destiny truly thinks that Mel, I think she just wants to have a reason to fight with Mel. Like, I don't think she truly thinks that. I think she just said that because Carlos also might have said her like, oh yeah, you know, they got together and da-da-da-da. Especially with Sunny coming on stage when they had the whole, you know, performance or whatever event. But Carlos corrected it and was like, no, it was us that met with them and stuff like that. And so Carlos was like, you know, when you found out, you know, you found out they were married, what, the day before? When did she reach out to you? And she was like, I got a message talking about, hey, we're getting serious. 2 days later, they was married on Instagram, you know? And so Sunny was like, no, we weren't married then. So it's given, even if y'all weren't married then, okay, you only messaged her 2 days before y'all got married or whatever, y'all, because it's given, you know, Las Vegas shotgun wedding, you know, it's given Elvis wedding. So Sunny, if you didn't really feel anything towards feeling like you had any type of relationship with Destiny, she was like, you know, I was waiting on Moses to, you know, I wanted Moses to be the one to tell her. But the fact that Sunny was the one that told Destiny and not Moses, one, Moses, you punk bitch, you punked out, knowing you should have told her. So Sunny was like, well, I can't just let her just find out. So Sunny messaged her. It's given Moses decided he wasn't gonna message her, and or told Sunny that he was and really didn't. And Sunny had to do basically rip the band-aid off. That's what it's given to me. But nonetheless, we all know that Sunny, Destiny ain't never gonna get right. So that segment ends. They go back there. Melody goes to check on Sunny. It was like, this girl crazy. Where's she talking about getting that we met and stuff like that? What the hell? Sunny was like, that girl right now is just, it's giving dark energy. It's giving, she wants to be angry. Destiny definitely does carry an angry energy, you know. Yeah, there is an energy about Destiny that just gives ready to fight, like looking for fights almost, you know. But we get back. It's time for the final segment of Ken and Tricia. I'm trying to hurry up because you just always every time I smoke with these videos, they get too long. So Ken, Tricia, because ain't that the last segment after that? Yeah, Ken, Tricia, they come on. Oh Lord, Tricia in this damn blonde wig, and then you got a blonde wig, red lips, and a green dress. Lord Jesus, Tricia, how did you not learn? I almost feel like Tricia was like, I'm gonna prove a point and wear a blonde wig again, like to like do it better, to one up it. Like, y'all say it look bad, shoot, I'll look good in a blonde wig. But the shit look yellow. It's not reading well, Tricia. Nonetheless, they come on. They get to question Tricia. You hooked up, texted, sexted, kissed Martell. All her answers was no. Tricia's whole thing was, she was like, you know, I'm new to this. You know, I like Tricia. That's why I said, like, the whole season when she was speaking, it was like she was speaking and like you could tell she was thinking about what the reaction to what she was going to say was before she even was speaking words. So it's like she was contemplating everything so much, which is why she always carried that nervous energy. And so that's why I get where she's explaining, like, I'm new to this. She's like, so when he did that, it was like, wait, am I supposed to play along? Like, am I supposed to say, like, I don't know you, or that I do know you? Like, what's up? But that's where Tricia, she was like, he's like, were you nervous about telling the truth? You couldn't tell the truth. I'm confused. And Tricia was just like, no, like, I just didn't know which way we were going. And I felt like, after Tricia kind of felt like, it's okay, because nothing happened, say something, it just was not a good look. Like I said, Tricia was so worried about how she was saying was going to come across that she kept editing herself, and it only made the situation worse, and so, of course, we get to the part of, like, Martell, Carlos asked Martell, did you ever want to kiss her, make up with her, or, like, when you reached out to her, were you trying to, or whatever? Martell, when he said a joke of, Carlos was like, for the final thing, like, Martell, did you and Tricia, hook up? He was like, let me just be honest. Yes. Everybody's face said, wait a minute. And it got quiet for a second. He's like, no, I'm just kidding. When I tell you the air sucked out of the room because Tricia was like about to say, like, wait, nigga, what? Like, he was like, nah, I'm just kidding. Do y'all think Martell kidding? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they hooked up. I don't think they did. I think Martell just likes poking at people. And I also think Martell does it for his ego boost, That's why he was trying to find subtle ways to still try to put out there that him and Tricia might have possibly did something, because he ain't got shit else going on in his life to boost his, fragile masculine ego. But, Tricia's whole thing about how she was explaining it was just the fact that, she was trying to not look bad on TV. I think she was just so concerned. And so she stuck her foot in her mouth, And that's really where the episode ended, with Kim looking at Martell like, that shit ain't funny, dog. And so, yeah, let me get off of here. This review is way too long. I appreciate y'all for tuning in, y'all. Y'all drop down in the comments, tell me what you feel about the episode. Do you guys feel like Sunni owed Destiny an apology? Do you guys feel like male can sometimes not acknowledge other people's feelings? Do you guys feel like Destiny and Lance was just pure storyline? Yeah. I'll catch y'all hoes later. Deuces.